Welcome back to the Sideline Report. I'm Donna Hopkins, sitting in for Marvin Jackson. I'm here with Lexter Taylor, Shannon Cross, and Thom Loverro. Before we talk about Monday night's game against the Seattle Seahawks, DC does have something to be happy about this week, and that's baseball. It's fall, and we're still talking about baseball in the DMV. Both the Nationals and the Orioles are in the playoffs. Thom, what happened with these two teams to turn it around?
Well, both of these teams made their presence felt in the same year in 2012. That's when they first made the playoffs. For the Nationals, it's the first time since they've moved here in 2005. For the Orioles, since '97. So what we're seeing is a carryover from 2012. They both missed out on the playoffs last year, rebounded this year, and arguably are the two best teams in our league. That comes from strong leadership. Buck Showalter is the leader of that Orioles organization. Dan Duquette's the general manager, but the manager, Buck Showalter, is the driving force. Here in Washington, it's Mike Rizzo, the general manager. This is what happens when you have strong, good leadership in place at the top of organizations. They make smart decisions that keep teams consistently in the playoffs year in and year out. And I think that's what we're seeing with both of these teams.
Let's talk about these teams a little bit. If they were to meet in the playoffs, who's the better team between the two? Is it the Nationals or the Orioles?
Well, on paper, the Nationals seem to have the best team in baseball. I mean, their starting pitching is deeper than anybody, so much so that they've got a 15-game winner in Tanner Roark, who's probably going to be pitching out of the bullpen in the playoffs. Now, nobody can match up with the Nationals starting pitching. The Nationals have the better roster. I'm still not quite sure how the Orioles have done as well as they have, losing guys like Matt Wieters, Manny Machado, and then Chris Davis to suspension. So I would argue that the Nationals head-to-head would have the better shot against Baltimore.
Okay, we've got to switch back to football a little bit. When you look at Philadelphia, are they the odd team, or they're the top team in the NFC East still, or is somebody else sneaking in?
I think so. I mean, right now they're leading the way 3-1. Also, the Cowboys 3-1 after an impressive win. But I like how they look right now. I mean, when they faced Washington, it was a great game. But again, in the end, they came out harder and got that W. I think the way their schedule is set up is a little better than Dallas's. They have Seattle coming up. They have, I believe, the Cardinals. So it's going to be tough for them to get these wins in the next few weeks.
But the NFC East is not the way it used to be, the beast. You know, back in the day, it was like everybody was jarring for that top position, but it seems like it's only a couple of teams at the top right now.
Well, it's not as bad as we thought it would be so far. I mean,
Right.
the NFC East was considered the NFC least.
Exactly.
And now they've got two teams at 3-1. The Dallas Cowboys are a surprise. We don't really know who the Giants are yet, but as an organization, the Giants have consistently been atop of the NFC East. So it may be stronger than we thought. It's not, you know, from the glory days of Bill Parcells and Joe Gibbs and Buddy Ryan. But I think the NFC East is better than everybody gave him credit for.
And kind of piggyback on what he's saying, I mean, the Redskins played Philly a week ago, and, I mean, they went toe-to-toe with them.
Right.
If you recall, a year ago, that fast-paced offense really, fatigued the Redskins early in that contest, and the Redskins couldn't keep up with the Eagles. They went toe-to-toe. I mean, Kirk Cousins threw 3 touchdowns in that game. So, I mean, they have improved. Dallas offensively is still a really good team, and the Giants' offense is really good. So I think all the critics said the East was going to be the worst. I don't think it's going to be the worst division in football this year.
But isn't it a thing that when you play an NFC East team that you always play hard anyway? It's, you know, within your division.
Well, the NFC East is, you know, like the Big East. They have this reputation. Historically they've been considered the top division in football in a lot of cases. I mean, yeah, the NFC Central with Green Bay and Chicago, you know, they might make an argument that their division is better, but the Redskins have, 3 Super Bowl trophies? The Giants have, 4 trophies?
How long ago was that?
The Cowboys. No, but what I'm saying is the NFC East division has the most.
Yeah,
they have the most trophies.
They have 12 Super Bowl
exactly.
trophies. By the way, I might want to point out the Eagles, of which have none
0.
of them.
Yeah,
Zero.
I constantly tell an Eagle fan that. But when you look at the NFC East right now, and as far as the dominant of it seemed like the Eagles, and Dallas is starting to creep up. You look at Washington, can they be at the top looking at their schedule? When you look at the meat of their schedule with Arizona coming up after Seattle and then Dallas after that, can they be contenders in the East?
You know, the logical answer would be no.
Right.
But what we've seen from this league so far is winners become losers next week, losers become winners. This is so unpredictable so far in the NFL, it's maddening. So, I mean, based on what we saw with what Dallas did to New Orleans, what Kansas City did to New England, the Redskins should be in the driver's seat against the Seahawks.
They should. But what do you like about Dallas and what they've done? Because everybody talked about they were going to be at the bottom because their defense, they lost their starting linebacker. Romo was coming back off of a back injury. But it seems like, they got a solid offensive line, and they seem like they're playing pretty good right now.
Well, the offensive line, that's the key for them. I mean, they've spent a lot of draft picks the past 3 or 4 years on high draft picks on offensive linemen. So that's how they were able to have that great running game with a very good running back. And they're relying on that. They're not pass happy. So that's what's gotten them this far. I'll be real curious to see if Jerry Jones can keep his finger off the self-destruct button like they usually push.
And the other thing is they have weapons. I mean,
Yeah.
when they had Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, and Troy Aikman, the triplets or whatever, they have a triplet set up right now with Romo, Murray, and the Beast.
Well, Mary has
Bryant.
been running quite well.
Exactly. So, I mean, they really needed to shore up their offensive line, which they did the last couple of drafts. So, Dallas offense is one of the top 4 or 5 offenses in football, and if you can score like they can, you can be competitive in most of the games.
Can we go back to Washington and talk a little bit about their offensive line? What do you think about that?
Well, they sure seem like they can run the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, that offensive line seems like they can open up holes and pave the way for Alfred Morris and what they should be getting the ball, Roy Halou
Yeah.
Moore. As far as pass protection, they need to find somebody to replace Tyler Columbus. I mean, that's a big problem now that they can't ignore anymore.
Right.
So I think you're going to see auditions out there at right tackle to try to get somebody to give them more protection. And Kirk Cousins gets rid of the ball quick.
He does.
Maybe sometimes too quick.
That's what I heard
Right.
somebody say today. I said, too quick?
Maybe bring Paulson in and let him block the way Joe Gibbs used to have, Don Warren kind of stand beside the tackle and block, because if Paulson's not going to hold on to the football, he should just be a blocker.
That's
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
a good point.
So-
I mean, you've got to do what you can to protect your quarterback, or else you're in for games like we saw against the Giants.
Isn't it surprising that everybody was talking about Pierre Garçon as far as Deshaun Jackson, but the one receiver that has really stood out was Roberts?
Yeah, he's better than I think most of the public thought. I think the Redskins were high on him.
Yeah.
I think they liked him a lot, and they're getting exactly what they expected. It's kind of frustrating because when you see him, who should be the third choice, when you're looking down the field for pass, for looking who to throw the ball to, and he's that good, it seems like they should be explosive every game.
Okay, we talked about 2 phases of this team, but it's one phase that was supposed to be better this year, and that is special teams. Nothing is special about them right now but Roberts and his returning. But other than that, what has gone wrong with this special teams?
Bruce Allen in the free agency signed a group of guys who he thought were good special teams players. I don't know. You got a new coach.
Right.
You've got better players, and they're still having special teams breakdown. It's a particular embarrassment for a team that basically made special teams special. George Allen emphasized special teams more than any coach in NFL history. And his son, who's now the general manager,
Right.
presides over some of the worst special teams we've seen. That's embarrassing.
It is. Well, let's take a break.